Yeah, she's been doing
Partly cloudy, lows 70s for tonight. Tomorrow, mostly sunny. Slight chance of showers and storms early. Then a 30% chance of afternoon showers and thunderstorms. Hot again, high of 90. Georgia meteorologist John Weatherby in the GNN Weather Center.
Local news, sports, and community information. 93.9 FM and AM 1350. We are WRWH, Cleveland.
This is Let's Get Growing with horticulturalist Nathan Wilson at Lanier Nursery and Gardens in Flowery Branch. Get information you need for gardening, landscaping, and home plant care. We're taking your calls right now at 706-865-3181 or email info@wrwh.com. Now, here's Nathan.
Good morning, boys and girls and assorted others. Welcome to Let's Get Growing. We're glad you are here. Definitely, we are here to make sure you are successful in your landscape, successful in your garden, your lawn, everywhere outside. We'll be glad to help. So give me a call this morning at 706-865-3181, or you can send us a message to our email. That's info@wrwh.com. I'm sorry that last week I couldn't be with you. I know it was kind of some old stuff we'd already done, but we had my grandmother. She passed away, and so we were spending time together, of course, and she had been sick for a couple of weeks, but she is all better now, and that's what I am glad about. Sometimes these kinds of things you know, really affect you, but the reality is that we have all of these great memories. We have all of these things that we've done together, and you know, I think that when something like this happens, it really makes you think. You know, we should be thinking about the old things sometimes, some of the things that we've lost or forgotten, the things that our grandparents grew up with that either no longer exist or maybe have been passed down. I think of my grandfather out there growing his garden, growing his vegetables. Of course, he taught me everything as a kid. And then my grandmother, she would bring it inside and she would can things, use her pressure cooker and store that food. And some of those things have been lost. We just run down to the grocery store, we pick up something in a can, or we pick it up in a frozen bag. But the reality is there is a living, breathing world out there outside of the grocery store, and we can be a part of that. We can grow vegetables, we can grow flowers, we can grow these beautiful trees and shrubs, not just to bring beauty, but also to support our very life and really our mental status too. You know, the garden is very therapeutic. As the old going says, gardening is cheaper than therapy, and you get tomatoes. So there's a lot of benefits there for that. But I do want to let you give me a call this morning, 706-865-3181, or you can email us, info@wrwh.com. And hold on throughout this hour with us, because of course we're back to normal this week. We've got our garden soliloquy with Ethel's garden soliloquy. It'll be later in the show, and my plant of the week to give you a little bit of information about some new plants or some old plants you may have forgot about that are great for the garden. So hang on for that. Give us a call at 706-865-3181, or send us a message at info@wrwh.com. We'll be glad to answer your questions. And now we have our first call of the morning. That's wonderful. Welcome, Nancy, to the program. I understand you have a question about houseplants.
Yes, sir, I do. I have noticed that some of my houseplants have these little white flies all over them. How do I get rid of those?
Yeah, so white flies, that's exactly the word we would use. It's a big problem with houseplants. They do like these conditions where generally, you know, you have sometimes moist soil because they're indoors. They're not draining as quickly as it would or drying out as quickly as they do outside. And it does kind of breed things like white flies that you see, sometimes some scale, and there can be some other little issues as well. So what I'm going to recommend is some products from from our Bonide group. Bonide creates, if you want to start out with some basic things, there's an insecticidal soap. An insecticidal soap is an organic product. It is going to basically smother the little critters there. So you want to be sure to apply it to the top of the leaves, the bottom of the leaves, and then onto the stems as well. But you could take it a step further, still an organic product, but we have Bonide horticultural spray oil, and it's similar to the insecticidal soap, but the horticultural spray oil will actually put a nice shine to your plant because it's an oil-based product. And you're going to do the same thing. You're going to apply it, and it's going to cover the leaves, cover the stems, and make sure to cover the undersides, because you never know where those little critters are going to be. And lastly, I would recommend another Bonide product. It's called Bon Neem, and this is a kind of a cocktail. It has not just neem oil, but it also has a product called pyrethrin. Now, these are all organic products, but the pyrethrin is actually a chemical that comes out of a plant. So that's why it's called organic, because some plants have natural insecticides. So this is a natural insecticide, and the neem oil, of course, works to smother out the white flies. And what I've noticed when you use neem oil or when you use the horticultural oil and the insecticidal soap is not only does it take care of the problem and get rid of those white flies, but another thing, it's going to put that beautiful shine on your plant, and it's going to look brand new and gorgeous all year. And with that in mind, Nancy, what you want to do is you want to be sure to apply that maybe even as a preventative. If you see little eggs on there or evidence that there is something there, reapply it because it's common for those things to come back even after you've killed them that first time. So again, that would be Bonide's insecticidal soap or the horticultural oil or Bonide's Bon Neem. How about that? Does that help answer the questions?
Oh, yeah, but I got one more question.
Oh, okay.
If you see on one plant but not on the other, can you treat the other plants without harming them?
Sure. So the first two, the insecticidal soap or the horticultural oil, they're going to work to smother out the plant, smother out the critters that are there. So if they're not there, those may not work. But the Bon Neem can be used as a preventative for them to come, prevent them from coming to the untouched plants, because it does have that pyrethrin in there, which I mentioned is an organic insecticide. So if that Bon Neem is on there and then a little guy tries to crawl over there or fly over to your untouched plant, he'll take a lick of that Bon Neem and then he'll be dead. So you can use that Bon Neem. It's a really good product, and I would definitely recommend that. So.
All right. Thank you so much.
Well, thanks for calling, Nancy. We appreciate it. And if you have something that is irking you, hey, that was an indoor question. And normally we answer outdoor questions, but indoor questions are just fine as well. I mentioned my grandmother's passing earlier in the program here, and she had been given some plants, which is kind of customary around the funeral time and all, with flowers and plants, some of the house plants. So I was honored to be able to be given a couple of those, and I'm going to keep a close eye out on those for sure. Neem oil is a great product, since we're talking about that, to not only just make the plant look good with that shiny oil that you apply, but it also helps to smother, and that Bon Neem does indeed take care organically with the pyrethrin that's in there, take care of any issues with creepy, crawly critters. So be sure, if you've got a question, if you've got a house plant question, give us a call. If you've got an outdoor plant question, give us a call, and the number to call is 706-865-3181, or you can give us a message at info@WRWH.com.
You've got mail.
Then there we go with our mailbox. This morning, we have a question here. Let me make sure. Okay. So this is Carmen. Carmen says, I'm starting a new garden bed. Do I need to test my soil? That's a very good question, Carmen. It's a very good question, because a lot of times we just go ahead and we plant. We just go ahead and we put out the plants and just say a little prayer and hope they'll survive. But I would say absolutely, it's always a good idea to test your soil. Now, what that soil test is going to tell you is it's going to give you results for your soil pH. Now, what is pH? pH is basically how acidic or how basic, sweet, some people say, the soil is. So either how acidic or how sweet or basic the soil is. Now, in Georgia, our soils are generally going to be more acidic. which is not a problem. Actually, if they're not too acidic, it can be a good thing for plants. But sometimes they can get really acidic, and we'll need to change that. And that soil test will let you know if your soil is too acidic, and perhaps in the odd chance that it's too basic. But it will tell you how to do that and how much product to apply to change that soil to an appropriate pH. Also, it will tell you how much phosphorus and potassium is in the soil. Now, phosphorus and potassium hold on to soil particles very well. However, nitrogen does not hold on to the soil. So you won't see a soil result for nitrogen. What you'll see is a soil recommendation. They'll tell you about how much nitrogen you're going to need for whatever crop it is that you're growing. So if it's a new garden bed for shrubs or ornamentals, they'll give you a recommendation of how much nitrogen you'll need to apply this year. Now, the key, Carmen, is going to be on collecting the appropriate sample. How do you take a soil sample? And this is one thing that we get a lot of questions about at the plant nursery, at Lanier Nursery and Gardens. Now, here's what you want to do. You want to look at the new area you're going into, okay? And you want to randomly go around and take maybe 10 samples, 10 to 15 samples. Use a trowel and dig down. 4 inches is generally enough. You could take out a core with maybe a bulb planter. You know, those little bulb planters you stick down and it pops a hole out. And pull out that plug. And then you want to put all of those samples that you are collecting into a plastic container, some kind of a bucket or something like that. You don't want to use metal because the soil can react to a metal bucket and can change your results. However, what you want to do then is take out any of the grass. You don't want to put any organic matter. If there's grass or weeds or if there's mulch, take all of that out and just leave the soil itself. And mix it up really well so that you get a nice well-mixed soil sample there. And then you want to take about a cup from that mixture. Take about a cup from that mixture, and you can take it up in a brown paper sack or something to your county extension office. And they have these little fancy soil sample bags they put it in, and they can help you from there. But you're going to want to, on the soil sample bag when you go to your county extension office, is you're going to want to tell them what it is you're growing, what kind of crops you're going to have, and it's going to have a list of information that you'll want to see. And it'll ask you what kind of soil tests you want ran on it. And then, Carmen, a few days later, I'm talking just a few days later, what's going to happen is you're going to get an email, and that email is going to give you your results. And you can print it out, you can look at it online, whatever. And of course, if you have any questions, of course, you can call your county agent, or you can give me a call. We'll be glad to help at Lanier Nursery and Gardens and help you understand that, because at school, that's the thing we did a lot of was soil samples and looking at results and tests, much like I guess a doctor would in medical school, but this was for soil, so not quite as complicated. But anyhow, Carmen, that's basically what I'd recommend you doing, and definitely do it, because what I find is that some people come back and they have unsuccessful adventures in the garden, and I ask them, I say, well, did you test your soil? Did you fertilize all this? No, we just put it in the ground. And sometimes that can be a problem because you don't have success, but we want you to have success. So Carmen, hope that helps. And if you've got a question that is just growing in your mind, give us a call at 706-865-3181 or send me an email. We'll answer those as well at info@WRWH.com. We'll be glad to help, and we'll be right back and after a few moments with more of your garden questions.
Have you played Apple Mountain yet? Come and experience the most talked about golf course in North Georgia foothills, complete with clubhouse, full line of equipment, driving range, senior discounts, twilight rates, and lessons for beginners as well as accomplished golfers. Open all year, 7 days a week. Have you played Apple Mountain yet? Call 706-754-2255 and book your tee time today. Apple Mountain Golf Course off Old Highway 441 on Rockford Creek Road in Clarksville.
This is Ricky Barrett. At Barrett Funeral Home, we want you to know that you can count on our family for the best professional service when you experience the loss of a loved one. Barrett Funeral Home cares about each family that we have the opportunity to serve. call us at 706-865-3101.
Today I took care of the most important thing in your life, your family. I am a Georgia State Trooper and a veteran. I served my country proudly and then found a way to continue my values of service. Right now, the Georgia State Patrol is growing its state trooper ranks through competitive salaries, benefits, and promotion opportunities. Being a trooper is a point of pride and accomplishment. Challenge yourself as the road to trooper begins here. Start your journey at georgiatrooper.com.
Back to more Let's Get Growing with Nathan Wilson.
Let's grow together this morning, and I do mean out in the garden, out in the landscape. Let's do that, and let's start off with you giving me a call at 706-865-3181, or you can email us at info@wrwh.com. Now, I think you may be wondering, maybe you went on vacation a week or two this summer, and maybe you missed some of our shows. Well, we want to let you know that you can watch all of our shows that we have done so far on the WRWH YouTube channel. Now, it's just as simple as going to youtube.com and searching WRWH, and you can type in Let's Get Growing if you want to look for our show, and you can subscribe there, which means you'll get notifications of when we upload our most recent show. So you can either revisit some of the things we talked about this week, or, like I said, if you missed it, you can be there and listen to it once again.
New shows are always up within 24 hours.
Okay, so that is good. That is Buster, our producer there, and he wants you to know that as soon as you want that garden goodness information, we've got it there for you. And also, if you go away, or maybe you are, driving through town, and not through town, but maybe through the woods, through the country, like I often do, and I can't get a good reception on my radio in my car, well, you can use your cell phone, and you can stream our show, and you can stream all of WRWH shows at the TuneIn app. So if you have Apple, go to your Apple Store, and your App Store at the Apple. Go to the App Store. I am getting confused here. I'm thinking about apples. Maybe we need to talk about that a little bit. But go to the App Store there and download TuneIn. That's TuneIn, just like you're tuning in here. Or if you have Android or another, just go to the wherever you buy your apps there, Google Play, and look for the TuneIn app, and you can listen and stream live as well. Or visit WRWH.com, and you can listen live there from your computer. So again, give us a call, folks, 706-865-3181. We'll give your gardening questions here. All right, we go back to our mailbox here, and this message is from Frankie. He's from Bean Creek. Frankie says, there is something sticky on the plant's leaves in my garden. Do you know what it might be? Okay, so sticky leaves is a problem. I think that made me think of like sticky fingers. That's a problem in retail. But sticky leaves is a problem in the garden. Most likely, Frankie, it could be a few things. Obviously, plants have what we commonly call sap, which is their life source. It's their sugars mixed with some water, and that's how the plants feed, and it moves sugar from one part of the plant to the other part, and they grow and grow. It's possible that some of the sap is oozing from lenticels, which are like pores on your skin. We call them lenticels on a plant, or stomata from underneath. But most likely it would be from these little pores on top of the leaves. Very uncommon situation. What I think you may be seeing is what we call honeydew. Now, what is honeydew? I don't mean that delicious fruit that you find in the grocery store. Honeydew is basically aphid and other, like Nancy called earlier about whiteflies, other little bugs' excrement. So honeydew is a nice word for bug poop. Okay, so Frankie, I think you may have some bug poop on your leaves. Now, you may look around and see if you actually see some bugs. Sometimes they may come out and feed at night, and you may not see them, but they're out there during the day sometimes, and you'll see them. What they do is they suck out the juice, the sap from the plant, and they're feeding on that. And then, of course, their bodies are very little, and they're eating way more than they probably should. But it just goes right through their system. And it comes out just as sticky as it was inside the plant, maybe even a little stickier. And that residue is left on the leaves. Now, it's not really a problem, except, if there's bugs on your plant, well, that could be a problem. But what can happen is that honeydew that is now on your plant's leaves can grow a kind of black fungus. We call it black. It's like black soot, and it looks like black sooty mold. So that doesn't actually hurt the plant. That little fungus grows on top of the leaf, but it's consuming that honeydew, the bug poop, and so that's not really an issue for the plant, but it looks bad. One plant in mind that really shows this black sooty mold is gardenias. The white flies get onto the gardenias and they excrete, and then the black sooty mold comes in. So you got this mixture of sticky and black soot and white flies. It's just best to get those flies under control. You could use some of the products we talked about a minute ago with Nancy, which was like Bonime. You can use those indoor, outdoor. It doesn't matter. It can be used on gardenias, and it can do a really good job to give you control of those white flies, which should resolve your sticky plant problem. Okay, so Frankie, I hope that helps. I'm not exactly sure. We don't have many details there, but it does sound like a common issue with bug poop that's causing the stickiness on your leaves there. If you have a question like Frankie or some kind of sticky problem, give us a call at 706-865-3181, or you can always email us. That's info@WRWH.com. Again, that phone number is 706-865-3181, and we'll be happy to answer your garden questions. Once again, we go to our mailbox here, and Jamie, okay, perfect, Jamie from Gainesville, she has sent us a message. My Julia Child Rose was gorgeous this summer, but has a ton of brown spots on its leaves. What can I do to fix it? Okay, that's good. Black spots, brown spots are very common on roses. Black spot, we call it, is a fungal issue, a bacterial issue, a disease issue, but it's very, we know a lot about it, and it's common, like I said, on roses. So pretty easy to control. The damage has been done, but you can prevent it from spreading into the new growth. And it's going to take, there's really few ways to do this. It's going to take some kind of chemical control, or we do have some organic options as well. Let's start off with Bonide's systemic drench. Bonide has a systemic drench, which is an easy way to apply treatment. You basically water the soil with this solution in a watering can. You mix it, very easy to use, and you just water it around the plant's roots. The roots pull this systemic product into the body, and it's a 2-in-1, so it is an insecticide and a disease control. So if you have a problem with maybe Japanese beetles. I haven't seen as many Japanese beetles as I would expect this time of year, but I've seen a few. It'll take care of those as well, but also take care of your black spot. Now, if you do want to go more of an organic option, you can go with Bonide's 3-in-1. It's an organic spray. It kills insects, it kills fungus, and mites. Sometimes we do see little tiny mites, which are more like spiders. They're more like an anacrid. So you do have to have a different chemistry there. But this spray particularly is organic, and it does work very well to control the disease issue, but also the insects and the mites. And lastly, if you just want to focus on the disease aspect and not insect issue, you can use Bonide's, we call it the Funganil. Funganil is a foliar application. You're going to spray it onto the leaves, and it's basically going to take care of more than just the black spot. It'll take care of several diseases, and it's not just for roses either. None of these are just for roses. You can use them on a lot of your other ornamental ones as well. How about that? So again, you can, Jamie, you can take care of this black spot issue. Just be sure that you get a hold of it pretty soon, because diseases, once they start taking hold, it's like they just like a snowball effect, and quickly you can see some damage happening. So hope that helps, Jamie. If you've got a problem with some bugs, if you've got a problem with some wet soil or whatever it may be, give us a call. It's 706-865-3181. That's info@WRWH.com if you'd rather email your question. And hey, hang around, because in the the next half hour, Ethel is coming to visit us, and she's going to give us her garden soliloquy, and you're going to hear my plant of the week. So hang around and let's get growing together.
Do you want healthy choices in a clean and friendly environment? We have it here at Captain D's. Choose from grilled salmon, grilled tilapia, grilled shrimp, or grilled chicken, and side choices that include green beans, steamed broccoli, baked potatoes, and fresh green salads. All served in a restaurant with an excellent health department rating. Now that's a healthcare plan that I like. I'm Jim McClure at Captain D's.
We're just cooking in the kitchen.
The 44th Annual Northeast Georgia Antique Auto Show is coming to the campus of North Georgia Technical College in Clarksville. It's August 17th and 18th, Friday and Saturday, 8 a.m. until 5 p.m. Flea market and car corral, plus arts, crafts, and food court. On Saturday, car show starts at 1 p.m. Trophies awarded in 20 classes. Additional information available on their Facebook page, Northeast Georgia Antique Auto Region.
When it comes to local news and sports coverage in White County, you can count on the White County News. White County News, your local newspaper, has it all. Local news, family news, school news, church and outdoor activities, special feature stories, photos of people you know, and sports section that covers all the high school sports and then some. Count on the White County News every week. And thank you for reading the White County News, your local newspaper.
One of the greatest things an individual can do to support his or her local community is to patronize the businesses. Your White County Chamber of Commerce encourages you to shop White County first. Shop local. Support local. When you support local merchants, you support local jobs. Help to keep your taxes lower and fund city and county improvement projects with SPLOST tax dollars spent here. Live local. Be local. Buy local. Shop White County first.
Hi, good morning. Some patchy fog, but a mostly sunny day today and hot. 20% chance of afternoon showers and thunderstorms, upper 80s. Northwest winds 10 to 15. Humidity just a little bit lower. Partly cloudy, lows 70s for tonight. Tomorrow, mostly sunny. Slight chance of showers and storms early. Then a 30% chance of afternoon showers and thunderstorms. Hot again. High of 90. Georgia meteorologist John Weatherby in the GNN Weather Center.
More great information coming your way on Let's Get Growing with Nathan Wilson.
All right, welcome back, boys and girls. We're so glad that you're gardening with us. I hope that you are, outside, but I hope that you've got the radio turned on, or maybe you got your earbuds in, your earpod. I don't know. I think that's a real thing. I don't know. But I hope you're listening to us while you're gardening. That's a good idea. Or maybe you're enjoying a cup of coffee while you're gardening. Of course, we've got your phone calls coming up, 706-865-3181, and you can mail us at info@WRWH.com, and we'll be glad to answer all of your gardening questions. So let's go to our mailbox this morning, and TC from Shoal Creek writes, he says, or TC, could be a female. I don't know, maybe male. It doesn't matter. TC, I want to start a garden in an area of my backyard. How should I get ready for it? Okay. Well, TC, you've picked a pretty good time of the year. Still hot outside, but you can definitely prepare and prep now, and you can plant a little later in the fall. Now, I don't know which kind of garden you may be talking about. Maybe it's if it's vegetables, you can do some fall crops later. But if it's for flowers, trees, shrubs, you can plant those in the fall for sure. So, how do you start with the garden? How do you prepare? Well, the first thing is you want to assess the site. That's the word I'm looking for. Assess the site. You want to say, is the soil here? Is the topography? Is it a low part of the garden, or is it kind of on a hill? Is it a slope? You want to kind of see what position, because if it's on a slope, you got to know it's probably not going to hold a lot of water because the water will freely drain. But if it's below the slope and kind of in a little pocket, it may be really moist there. And so you do want to pick plants that can fit those situations. Also, you want to assess for light conditions. Is it sunny? Is it shady? And people always get confused with that, and I try to make it easy. If you have an area that's 4 hours or less of sun, that would be considered, and that's direct sun, that would be considered a shady site. If you have somewhere around 5 hours of sun, that would be considered part shade, part sun. And then if you have a site that's 6 to 8 hours of full sun, that's enough for sun plants to grow in. That would be considered full sun. So with that in mind, you want to pick plants that are appropriate. Now, if this is a vegetable garden, vegetable plot, you definitely want a sunny site. Vegetable plants are most productive when they receive the most amount of light that they possibly can. Because remember, plants aren't like you and me. They don't eat. Plants make their own food. They are what we call autotrophic, which is a fancy word for, hey, we make our own food. And you and me, of course, we eat the food that they make, the vegetables and whatnot. But in this case, you want good production and good production of fruits and vegetables. You want a sunny site. Now, if you want if you have a little shady area, you may not be able to grow fruits and vegetables, but you can definitely grow a woodland garden, and you can grow things like hostas and heucheras and hydrangeas, and the list goes on and on. So once you've done that, once you've done all the assessment, the next step would be to actually start removing any kind of weeds. You could do that chemically. You could do that physically with a tiller or whatnot. If you have a sod area, you may want to remove the sod with a sod remover, which you can rent at some of the equipment rental places. But that sod remover will do a very good job of that. Or like I said, you could spray it and kill it. Some people don't want to do that. That's fine. You can always dig it out by hand if you want to. Whatever fits your fancy, as long as we're out there growing. But you do want to open that area up, get the soil exposed so that you can start to plant. Then you would want to go in and, well, if you're doing trees and shrubs, you don't necessarily have to amend the soil. But if you're going to do perennials or annuals like vegetables and whatnot, I would recommend to go in with some compost. If you go in with some compost, then what you'll be able to do is you'll be able to improve the soil for those young plants and whatnot. And, excuse me. And once you've got out of the compost, you're creating a nice fluffy bed for your plants to grow in. Compost is wonderful for vegetable gardens. And while we're talking about that, mushroom compost shows to be some of the best soil amendment that is out there. The research shows that mushroom compost specifically is some of the best. Of course, you have cow manure and you have vegetable compost, but the mushroom compost in research shows that it provides the best situation possible. Now, once you've amended the soil, you can either begin to start planting the area, or if you wanted to wait to plant, I would go ahead and put mulch down and kind of keep that bed weed-free and moist until you're ready to plant. And once you're ready to plant, you can pull that mulch away and plant directly into that prepared bed now. But of course, you want to have a good design. If it's a vegetable garden, most people do rows. But if it's a flower perennial border, group plants together. Group plants together that are like each other. We don't want like too much of a scattered look. We want things to be blocked and really impressive from the road or from a distance. Sometimes when we put one plant here and one plant there, it can look a little busy and it doesn't make a lot of sense. But if you group them together, if you group plants together, you can get a really good example of what's going on there. So I hope that helps TC. Of course, like I said, just get things prepared. And planting trees and shrubs now from containers is fine. But the reality is that the reality is that it's a little too hot. You're going to be watering a good bit. So I don't know what kind of planting you're going to be doing, but you can definitely do all those things we talked about to prepare the soil and to get things ready for the planting. So give us a call, 706-865-3181, or email us, info@WRWH.com.
And now it's time for a garden soliloquy with Ethel. Because when life gives her lemons, she plants the seeds.
Dear plant nurseryman, I have been looking for new plants to add into my garden. I know that my first stop should have been to your plant nursery. However, I began my search for new plants on that web thingy, or the interstate net thing. You know, that page called Goggles or Giggles, or you just type in a question and poof, all the answers in the world show up. Well, anyhow, I typed my question into the Goggle thingy, "What kind of new plants are near me?" I asked. And boy, did Goggle work for me. He sent me a bunch of new plants. Some of these I have never heard of, and I wanted to ask your opinion about them to see if I should attempt to grow them or not. To begin with, one of the most interestingly named plants I learned of was called the power plant. The power plant, is this some sort of plant that requires to be plugged into an outlet, or does it maybe produce some kind of electricity? If so, should I not water it? I'd hate to get electrocuted while I'm out pulling weeds. Secondly, Goggle provided me with a plant he called a chicken plant. Have you ever heard of this one? Does a chicken plant have feathers instead of leaves? That would be really nice and unique. It would look amazingly planted near my hydrangea. Do you know if this so-called chicken plant will make clucking or cooing sounds? If so, I would be sure to plant it far away from my bedroom window. The last plant I had a question about has an extremely unusual name. Mr. Goggle called it a water treatment plant. What a highly unusual name, don't you think? What do you know about this type of plant? Does a water treatment plant require a pond to grow in, or just some wet soil? As far as the treatment goes, does it prefer to be treated well or badly? I don't mind a plant that needs to be pampered, but I would rather have a plant to take all my frustration out on. Well, my dear nurseryman, I guess I better end my note. I see that the neighbor's Doberman Pinscher is once again relieving himself on my gardenia. Sincerely, Ethel.
All right. Well, many thanks to Ethel for coming in with her garden soliloquy this week. I know sometimes we're always looking for, new plants, information about new plants, those kinds of things. And sometimes we go to the, as she says, the goggle or giggle or the interstate net thingy. And we'll type in a question and we'll try to get an answer. And sometimes we believe the very first thing we see on the internet. But we've got to remember, folks, that anyone can post on the internet. Anyone can say what they want to on the internet. And sometimes observations and doing things is fine, but sometimes we find bad information on the internet, and that's where, with something like this, gardening and horticulture, I take it very seriously. I take my career, my job very seriously, just like a preacher would take his sermon seriously, or just like a brain surgeon would take his scalpel seriously and the movements that he makes. So you can be sure when you tune in to Let's Get Growing from WRWH that we give you information that is not just helpful, but is proven to be successful, especially with the new science that's coming out, with new technologies and whatnot. We definitely strive to bring that to you here at Let's Get Growing, and that's what we're about. So where Miss Ethel was a little confused about some of these new plants that she has, if you want to find some new plants, come see me at Lanier Nursery and Gardens in Oakwood, Georgia, just about 2 miles off of 985. We're very close, and we'll be glad to show you some real new plants. Not some of these plants that she found on Google or Goggle, as she calls it, but some real plants to give you real success in your landscape. That is the key here. Give us a call at 706-865-3181 or info@wrwh.com and leave us a message.
You've got mail.
And this morning we've got a number of messages to answer from our inbox. Of course, I've been out for a week or so we've got to catch up. And this one here comes from Stephen. He is from Cleveland. Stephen asks, is it time to prune my Nico Blue hydrangea? Says the flowers are faded and ugly. Okay, Nico Blue is a beautiful hydrangea. It does come with that name blue, but of course it can be pink, as we know hydrangeas can go from pink or blue depending on the pH of the soil. But the question here is, can he prune them? Can Stephen prune them? And yes, Stephen, you sure can. You can prune your Nico hydrangeas. You can prune any of those big leaf hydrangeas. There's some plenty of others out there. Nico, as a matter of fact, is one that blooms on old wood, which gets people kind of confused, I know. But the wood that is growing now, the part of the plants that are growing now, those stems will bloom next year. That's the goal. So Stephen, if you prune now, you have plenty of time for that plant to put out new growth and new stems so that they'll carry over through the winter, and you can see the blooms on that wood next year. So with most big leaf hydrangeas, you do need to prune them right after the flowers are faded and ugly, as Stephen says. So feel free, go ahead and take care of that. Get a nice clean set of pruning shears and make some good clean cuts. And I always encourage people that when you prune, to go ahead and fertilize, because the reality is that when you remove parts of the plant, you've got to replace it with something. So the goal here is to get a clean cut and fertilize and feed that plant, because you'll see rebounding in about a month or so. While we're talking about pruning, I do want to mention that you don't want to do any pruning after September 1st. So we're getting pretty close to that date. I know, it's unbelievable. But here we are, pushing the middle of August, and there's a few things we need to do to prepare for winter. We don't want to fertilize after September 1st or around Labor Day. We don't want to prune after September 1st around Labor Day. We don't want to water any extra, because that will all encourage plants to grow. And you don't want to encourage the plant to grow too late, because if it's growing close to the time of our first frost, our first freeze, you could actually damage, you could see winter damage to that tender growth. So if you do it now, you prune now, you fertilize now, you're still in the clear. You are still in the clear. You can do that with most of your shrubbery. It's kind of a misnomer, I don't know if that's the right word. It's kind of a misunderstood note that the best time to prune is fall. I don't know who said that. I'm actually, you know what, Buster, I'm going to start making a list of what I call garden myths. I'm coming up with a list of garden myths and maybe write a book about it. And one of these garden myths would include that the best time to prune is in the fall. It's just not true. The worst time to prune is in the fall, because, see, when you make a pruning cut, you're actually damaging the plant to a degree, and you're making a wound. Just like yesterday, I cut my finger at the nursery on some irrigation pipe. I don't know how that happened, but it hurts. Well, see, that wound has to have time to heal. And in the fall, the plant is not growing. And guess what? It's not going to heal. And so that open wound is susceptible to getting water on there, maybe some fungus, but mainly winter damage. And the water can get down into the fine tubes of the plant and can freeze and bust. So we don't want to do any pruning in the fall. We want to do it now. We want to do it when the plant is actively growing. It's even better to do it in the summer than it is the fall. In horticulture at UGA, we learned that, hey, there's no best time to prune, but there is a worse time, and that is the fall and into the winter. So pruning is a big deal. And if you have a question about pruning, feel free to give us a call. We'd be glad to talk to you at 706-865-3181, or you can send us a message. That's info@WRWH.com. We'll be glad to hear from you. Again, that number is 706-865-3181. And if you hang on tight, we'll be right back, and I'm going to let you find out what our plant of the week is. So hang on, and let's get growing together.
White County is accepting applications for the position of Network Technology Assistant. Complete job description and applications available during working hours at the White County Commissioner's Office, 1235 Helen Highway, Cleveland, or online at whitecounty.net. This is a full-time position offering comparative wages and full benefits. Successful applicant must pass background check and have an acceptable driving record. White County, an equal opportunity employer. Application subject to open records law.
Hey, at our startup, my team and I move at the speed of tech 24/7. And every single day, it's information overload. It's coming at me from all directions. And you know what? Bottom line, I just need the news that matters. So where do I turn? Local radio and TV. I want to hear from people who live and work in my town. They give me the real story with information I know I can rely on. So where else can I find out what's happening in my community? Weather and traffic, things that affect my family and my business. I want to stay informed by sources I trust. My local radio and TV stations. For the best entertainment, sports, news, traffic, and weather with no agenda and more reliable than other platforms. So if you ask me for the information I want anytime, anywhere, I stay local. Support your local station. Text radio to 52886 today. Furnished by the NAB and this station. Message and data rates may apply. Reply STOP to opt out.
back to more Let's Get Growing with Nathan Wilson.
All right, welcome back. Let's get growing. That is our motto here. Give us a call at 706-865-3181, or you can email us. That's info@WRWH.com.
Today's Plant of the Week is brought to you by the Poa family, a large group of grassy plants. Sometimes in the landscape you are looking for a touch of airy and fringy foliage to contrast the large and broad leaves of many of the ornamental plants in your garden. Contrasting with texture can provide gorgeous results and really make your planting areas stand out from the neighbors. Using grasses is a great way to achieve this. In the past, we have used a number of grass plants, including pampas and miscanthus. Despite providing their fringy look in the landscape, they both have their issues. Instead, I would recommend you look into a plant called showy switchgrass, or Panicum virgatum if you want to get technical. Showy switchgrass is a native plant to our area and so can tolerate the heat and drought that we inevitably deal with year after year. It's also blooming right now. It blooms in the late summer and into fall with a straw yellow to rosy color. Of course, the grassy leaves and spent seed heads can remain in the garden all winter long, providing coverage and food for birds. The fine leaves of showy switchgrass are thin and strap-like and would look great mixed in with some other native perennials. Leaf color can also range from cultivar to cultivar, starting with a bluish green to a blood red. Regardless of summer color, foliage color in the fall will be jaw-dropping. The overall look of the plant is slender and upright, so it will fit into almost any perennial border or shrubbery. Showy switchgrass is a clumping grass, so no need to worry about it creeping around the landscape like other introduced plants. Some cultivars are as short as 3 foot tall, while some others can reach up to 8 feet. Because of this range in height, you could utilize the shorter types nearer the house and the taller ones along your property line to help keep creepy neighboring eyes away from your private spaces. Once the plant is established, it will need little care as it can thrive in moist to dry soils. As with most other ornamental grasses, it is recommended to prune back old growth in March or early April so dry stalks won't overcrowd the new beautiful leaves that will emerge in the spring. Showy switchgrass, a great native grass to provide texture and contrast, unique plumage, and outstanding fall color. And it's my plant of the week.
Well, I hope that you enjoyed this week's Plant of the Week. Of course, sometimes we do use some of the same old plants. And, of course, at Lanier Nursery and Gardens, we like to recommend good plants. And many of those good plants are native plants. And as you notice, as you heard, the showy switchgrass is a native plant. And planting native plants is not just good for the beauty of things, but it's also good for the ecology of things. Because our world, and I know, up here in Cleveland, down where I live in Oakwood, there is so much deforestation going on because of improvements of roads and building new subdivisions and things like that. As a matter of fact, I think our little town in Flowery Branch area is going to have 2,000 new homes put in with a combination of a few subdivisions. So, as we start to take plants away, the thing is we've got to figure out what we're going to do. Gardeners, you're going to be the front lines. If you're a gardener, you're going to be the front lines of attacking the problem of deforestation and mixing our urban sites into the woodlands. So I like to say let's be a little conscientious about what we're doing and planting good plants that will provide food or maybe habitat or winter coverage for birds and butterflies and bees and things like that. This morning, we only have a few more minutes, but we've got plenty of time to answer your garden questions. Give us a call at 706-865-3181, or you can email me. That would be info@WRWH.com. Again, give me a call, 706-865-3181, and we will be glad to answer, like this next question from our friend Teresa. Teresa is listening to the program, and she sent us a message earlier, and she says, I went to, she actually said it. She says Home Depot, but I'm going to say, I went to Home Depot to buy fertilizer for my shrubs. There were so many with a bunch of numbers. There's a bunch of numbers on the bags. I had no clue what these different numbers meant. What do I do? Okay. Well, Teresa, I'm going to tell you, number one, never go back to the home despot because nobody there can help you. I mean, sorry. Okay. Nobody there. I mean, maybe the 16-year-old clerk who's posting a recent Instagram photo of him, hanging out at work. He may or may not know what he's talking about. But come to a reputable plant nursery, first of all, Teresa, just like Lanier Nursery and Gardens in Oakwood, and we actually care about your success. We want you to be successful, and I'm going to explain to you, and I'd be glad to show you if you want to come by, what these numbers mean. You're exactly right, Teresa. When you look at a bag of fertilizer, for those of who are familiar with looking at fertilizers or a bottle of fertilizer, sometimes they put them in bottles, there are 3 numbers, and they're separated with a hyphen, so it's like 10-10-10. That's a pretty standard fertilizer there. That first number represents the percentage of nitrogen that's in the bag. So if it's a 10-10-10 fertilizer, the first number is 10% nitrogen. That means if you have 100 pounds of something, 10% of that, 10 pounds of that is actually nitrogen. The next one is phosphorus, and the last number is potassium. So nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Now, with that in mind, there's a number of combinations. There's 5, 10, 15. The one that I'm going to recommend you come and buy Teresa, that will show great success, is called a 12-6-6. And we use that on our trees, our shrubs, our perennials, everything we grow at the nursery. We use our nursery special. It's a 12-6-6 fertilizer. It's a 2 to 3 month. This is the key here. 2 to 3 month slow release fertilizer. A lot of old-timey fertilizers, they're good, but they don't last in the soil, and you have to constantly reapply. But in the case of our slow-release fertilizers, you actually only have to apply them once or twice in a growing season because they'll last 2 to 3 months. So you start in April, you go in April, May, you put it in June or so, and then maybe once again before at the end of August or so. But regardless, that's what those numbers on the bag mean. Now, let's talk about how that affects. That first number, nitrogen, is going to produce and encourage the plant to grow leaves, okay? Leaves and shoots, upgrowth, okay? The next number, phosphorus, is going to encourage more root growth and things that happen below the ground that you can't see. So if you have a higher number of the second one, the phosphorus, you're going to see that the root growth will be encouraged. Then the last growth is potassium. And potassium is good for all-around growth, but also does encourage some with blooming and things like that. So if you want to encourage the plant to grow more leaves, find one with a higher nitrogen, that first number. If you want the plant to become established and kind of fill in faster underground as far as the root's concerned, you may want to have the phosphorus, the second number, a little higher. And lastly, if you just want all-around growth, if you need potassium, go ahead and do a high potassium. But here's an easy way to remember that, Teresa. The first number is up, the second number is down, and the third number is all around. So if it's a 10-10-10, it's up, down, all around. And I think that'll help you understand what those numbers mean. But again, never go back to the home despot because they will just wear you out. But come see me at Lanier Nursery and Gardens. I'll be glad to help you and show you around and show you some of the other kind of fertilizers we have. So if you'd like to send us a message this week as you're gardening and doing some things outside, we'd love to be able to answer your question. Send it to info@WRWH.com. We should have plenty of time for you. We'll try to get as many of these as we can in next week. But you can also give us a phone call, 706-865-3181. We only got a few minutes to chat here, so I want to remind you that you can listen to this show and all the other shows that we've aired at 9 o'clock on Saturday for the past few weeks on YouTube.com. Just go to YouTube.com or go to the YouTube app, and you'll be able to search WRWH Let's Get Growing. That's the show there, Let's Get Growing, and you'll be able to listen to all the past shows. As Buster let us know earlier, that these shows will be up within 24 hours of the show, so you can be sure that come just over the weekend, you can listen or review some of the information. Maybe you missed something. Maybe you wanted to hear Ethel give her garden soliloquy again. Well, check us out at YouTube.com. And next week, if you're on vacation, if you're away, go ahead and download the TuneIn app on your phone. That's TUNEIN, TuneIn. You download that app, and you can take WRWH everywhere you travel this summer for the rest of the summer. As I know we're getting close to the end of it, but you can listen live to all of the great shows that we have here at WRWH, and you can listen all week long. And you don't have to have your radio. You just have to have your smartphone. And it's almost like that's the only thing we carry, isn't it? We always carry our smartphones these days. It's crazy. So be sure to look in the TuneIn app, or if you have your computer, go to www.wrwh.com, and you'll be glad to listen to the live stream of all of the great programming here at WRWH. Folks, gardening is an important aspect of life. Not only aspect of life, but also of our relationship with the land while we are here. As I started the program out talking about my grandmother passing away, she was here for 86 years on this earth, and she had a relationship with the land in a certain way. We all will have a relationship with the land in some way or the other. Whether we work in an office or not, we're still going outside to get from home to work to market. And we're going to pass by trees, pass by shrubs, pass by plants. I hope that you're actively building that relationship with the soil, with the land. And if you are, we'll be glad to help you out here at Let's Get Growing, where we have a garden show every week at 9 o'clock right here at WRWH. So we'll be glad for you to tune in next week. I'll be back with more garden goodness, and I hope that you'll write down your questions and let us help you answer them. Thanks for joining us this week. We have had a wonderful time. I know I have, and I hope that we will see you next week here at WRWH Let's Get Growing with Nathan Wilson. Have a great weekend, folks.
Thanks for joining us for today's Let's Get Growing program with Nathan Wilson. If you have a comment about today's program, you can reach out to Nathan by sending an email to grow@laniernursarygardens.com. Join us next Saturday for Let's Get Growing on Local News Radio 93.9 FM and AM 1350.
Local news, sports, and community information.